Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. We want to welcome you to today's DevOps.com webinar brought to you by Techstrong and Plutora. My name is Jared Harris. I'll be your host for the Techstrong Learning webinar today. We've got an exciting webinar ahead of us, but first I've got a few housekeeping notes. Today's event is being recorded. You'll receive an email shortly after the webinar concludes today with a link to access today's recording. If you have any questions, we'd like you to submit any questions using the Q&A tab on the right side of your screen. You'll also see next to the Q&A tab, there's a chat tab where we want you to engage with our speakers. You can also talk to the fellow audience members, and you'll also see at the top of the chat section, there is a link to download a free ebook. We will have one poll during the webinar, and we'd love to hear from you, so please stick around for that. We've also got some handouts in the handout tab, which is near the Q&A and chat tab. And for the last housekeeping notes, at the conclusion of the webinar, we're going to give away 4 $25 Amazon gift cards. So be sure to stick around for those as well. And we can go ahead and get started with today's webinar titled Show Value Fast, 3 Practical Ways to Get Started with VSM. I'm joined today with Bob Davis, our Plutora's Chief Marketing Officer, and Richard Winslow. He's the Director of Solutions Architecture, also with Plutora. And at this time, it's my pleasure to turn the floor over to you, Bob.
Thank you very much, Jared. Appreciate it. It's great to be here. We have a real fun webinar today. I love webinars where you can actually go in and see real stuff. You know, where you're not just looking at PowerPoint slides and hearing people like me talk about all these highfalutin promises, but we can actually look at the product. And that's what we're going to do, because today's webinar is a pragmatic view of value stream management. We know the promise of VSM. We'll touch on that, but there are challenges, and sometimes it's just a real good idea to find some practical ways to actually start to add value to your organization, solve problems that you deal with day to day, and still be on a path to an enterprise-wide value stream management solution, which shows great promise for the future. So we're going to move quickly into some beginning, but first of all, Rich, let's go to the slide. As Jared mentioned, my name is Bob Davis, and I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Plutora. I've been here for about 5 years, and that's only relevant because of how much change we've seen in that 5-year period. Change from truly a manual process world to an automated DevOps and Agile mainstream kind of thing, new technology and containers and cloud, lots of stuff going on, and most notably value stream management coming to the forefront as a real trend. So I'll be excited to talk more about that. And Rich, maybe a quick intro from yourself.
Thanks, Bob. So I'm Rich Winslow, Director of Solution Architecture here at Plutora. Been here 5 years as well, and been working with Fortune 1000 companies around the globe, helping them optimize their value streams, how they make software. So real glad to be able to actually show you and demonstrate some of these capabilities today on this call.
Yeah, like I said, I think these are my favorite webinars where we can actually see stuff work. So let's talk a little bit about our flow. We're gonna touch on the promise of VSM. I think it's important to not lose sight of the fact that value stream management is a real thing, that it has real promise to enterprises. We speak to global 2000s, and the process of developing software is daunting. The process of developing software in an organization where applications have been developed for decades, but now moving at high speed through the evolution of technology, the changes in methodologies, the emergence of not just Agile, but DevOps in the last 10 years and value stream management in the last 2 or 3, not to mention surrounding evolution, both on the planning side and well into production on the SRE side. Lots of things going on, and value stream management is a mainstay in terms of a promise to helping manage that. But we'll talk about then the challenges of implementing that. Again, we speak with very large organizations, and the challenges of implementing something like value stream management can really be daunting, not for the faint of heart. So maybe there's a better way where we can build VSM one step at a time. Look at something that we can solve a real problem, show value, and move on to the next problem. And when I'm done, I've stitched together a value stream management platform, and my enterprise is benefiting from it. So if that's true and we can do that, let's explore some practical ways, and that's where the demos will come in to actually show you how quickly and how seamlessly I can bring in some very, very value, enriched capabilities, solve real problems, and get myself on the way. So without further ado, Rich, let's move on. To look at the promise of VSM, let's look at the challenge. We're not going to teach grandma to suck eggs here. The fact of the matter is that every company needs to be a software company, and you all know that. It's a mantra that's been spoken and repeated in the halls of DevOps conferences and software development conferences and VSM World conferences and so on and so forth for years. The fact of the matter is that software is defining the competitive edge of even the most established legacy companies. My entire interaction with my bank is through my mobile app. Well, I don't know where I'd be if I couldn't cash checks, from my office. That's how I view my bank. So everybody's a software company. Now, it's difficult to build software. If I'm a large bank and I've got to build software, not only am I large, not only do I have lots of applications, not only do those applications span multiple development types, multiple processes, multiple geographical locations, and not only that, but are subject to incredible scrutiny from a compliance and governance perspective. Imagine if I get sloppy and there are breaches. Those things become national news, international news very quickly. So in order to do this, I need to have the visibility from idea to cash. I need to be able to collect data from the process every step of the way. I need what we like to call a catwalk above my factory floor so I can see what's going on, manage the flow of the artifacts through the fabric of my development process, and really have the visibility to know where I'm running into problems and get better. And in fact, that's key. How can I get better? How can I use that data to continuously improve and really drive towards best in class, while at the same time I'm evolving my processes, I'm evolving the support of my teams around value streams. And those value streams might have multiple value streams, portfolios of value streams, and having the ability to see that end-to-end visibility, be able to get the data to improve and align it around a real value stream approach has tremendous values to the organization. That's the promise. But things conspire to get in your way. If we look at the four major hurdles on the next slide, you see the capabilities are made more difficult by a number of factors. First of all, it's difficult to see what's going on across a value stream. Just think of one value stream, information that's being done by groups in planning, in dev, test, operations, security teams, our corporate architectural boards, operations teams. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of groups along the path of even a single value stream. Managing that and answering questions like, where's my feature? How long before that particular capability gets released can be very difficult without lots of meetings, lots of memos, lots of share file and other technologies of that nature. That's a problem. That's a hurdle. Value stream management gives you that visibility, but you don't just have one value stream. You have multiple value streams. These value streams, as I mentioned, can be all over the company, all over the world, different teams, different methodologies. And not only that, but not all releases are created equal. Some are quick patches that might need to go fast track to production to solve a Sev 1 problem. Others might be a heavy lift, full-on upgrade of an OS. Those are different style releases. They demand different things from the organization, and they can't be managed exactly the same way. But if I'm managing a factory floor, I need to have visibility into all of that and understand how they fit together. Challenging. And I mentioned the multi-process, multi-technology value streams. Gartner called that multi-speed IT. Others have talked about the fact that I've got things that are moving at different speeds. That's very hard to manage. If I'm trying to, meet at the pass with a process that's taking weeks or months and another that's taking days or weeks, it's difficult to coordinate. And if I can't do any of that, I can't improve. And that becomes the most fundamental problem. So enter value stream management on the next slide there. Yeah, perfect. Just next year, Gartner's saying over 70% of organizations, high performing organizations, if you read the research, they'll describe those organizations as adopting value stream management. It has tremendous promise. It solves the problem of heterogeneous, as Forrester likes to say, heterogeneous enterprise software pipelines that are made up of multiple different tools. If you look at the graphic from the planning to the ops side, you've got not only a number of different stages, but think of all the tools. I think 5-6 years ago, when we would implement a product from Plutora, we'd have pretty much no connection into the tools at all. It was all about replacing spreadsheets and manual processes. Today, our average customers have 4 or 5 integrations into tools that are the mainstay of their development process. You don't want to lose the value associated with using those tools, but I need to gain the visibility across the value stream. That's the promise that we have. So let's go. If it's so cool, let's get it implemented. Well, the Value Stream Management Consortium has come out with research on the implementation roadmap on the next slide there. And it has a very thorough process that's backed up with tools and capabilities and trainings on the Value Stream Management Consortium site. But it goes through, a number of things, from identifying what your value streams are, understanding what they are, knowing who's in them, what groups, what people, and then getting everybody together and mapping those organizations and understanding where I might have bottlenecks, so I start to be able to get a plan to implement my transformation. At that point, I want to start to implement and connect across all my tools. Once I'm there, I'm going to start to get that data. That data is going to be surfaced, and excuse me, I can inspect the data, I can understand where I'm doing well and not, and then I can adapt, I can change, I can get better. All of this keeping aligned the vision of my organization and trying to achieve my strategic goals. Simple, right? Those of you that are going down that path, let's do a quick poll. Jared?
Sorry, I pressed the wrong button there. All right, you all should see the poll on your screen now. What challenges are you facing as you implement your value stream management journey?
We'll see what we get when we have some people filling out the data there. We have a lot of interesting questions here. I think, as people start to fill this out, you're looking forward, okay, we got implementation taking much longer. That's not unusual. Budget, looking for support from a sponsor, trying to find the overall resources necessary. Not as much. I think what we've got is budget and implementation. I think, Rich, are the big ones, which are definitely things that we've seen.
Looks like there's some education there too about just how VSM and meets the requirements or not. So I think these sorts of webinars are probably helpful to understand what it's all about.
Agree. It's probably one of the more notable things is that we've not had any challenges and are moving forward successfully is clearly the smallest group. And I think that's, for those people, I say, congratulations, bully for you. I mean, that is speaks a lot for the ability of the organization to align. I think the notion of getting the alignment, getting the solution implemented, getting the teams on the same page and having the discussions to bring things together is half the value of value stream management in the first place, is getting the strategic goals and the agendas of the various organizations on the same page. Okay, that's really super interesting. And I think, I think one of the things we see, we can go on now, is that it must feel, particularly for those having trouble implementing or maybe getting buy-in, it feels like you're trying to boil the ocean. Going from a standing start to getting this value stream management, as significant as the promise is, can be daunting. It's difficult to get buy-in across the enterprise. I've worked in large enterprises. This is not an indictment of them. This is about the fact that there are many groups, and those groups have different agendas. They require awareness and knowledge of different levels of problems, some very close down in the weeds, as it were, down in the actual development process, all the way up to, maybe understanding how the value from the standpoint of revenue is aligning to an organization. That kind of information. Getting all that data, getting all those agendas met can be difficult. Again, like I said, having the discussions to get there is half the benefit, but it can take time. A number of you indicated that implementation can take time, and that's true as well, because implementation has a lot of factors to it. Not only is there the most obvious, perhaps the most visible part of implementing, which is the actual integration into your estate. Getting the connection into the tools you're using and surfacing that data into the management platform itself. But we don't want to just automate processes that might need to be changed anyway. So we want to look at evolving the processes. We might be changing from a process or a project-oriented team to a product-oriented team, moving more towards value streams. That changes people and organizations around. So I've got to change the way I implement because I'm changing the context with which I'm going to look at the data. So there's a lot going on. It can take time, and we see that a lot. What people might have thought would take 2 or 3 weeks could take 2 or 3 months. It's not unusual. It's not an indictment. It's a big challenge. But those delays can compromise value realization. If the sponsor, and some of you said, gee, we don't have budget, we're trying to get sponsor. Well, when you do get that budget, when you do get that sponsor, and they say, okay, I'm going to pay you the money, now I want to see how it's going, and it's taking time, frustrations happen, people start to get stressed, and that can bad things happen when that occurs. We've seen people give up. We've seen projects not fulfill the promise, and that's disappointing for all. So that delay, we want to try to mitigate that. And by the way, while I'm in the middle of that delay, we're forgetting about the original request. Somewhere along the line, the organization that's on this path, the journey started by somebody going, I've got a problem. My problem is my deployments are taking forever. My problem is I'm having trouble with my automated testing because I don't really have a handle on my environment. I have a problem because I can't keep track of my my containers and my microservice applications alongside my waterfall applications as we evolve. I'm having difficulty. My processes aren't keeping up. While these delays are happening, those problems exist. So where does that leave you? That leaves you struggling with all the things you came to the party as the practitioner, as the person that's in the middle of that company process. There's people. And you're pulling your hair out because your environments are misconfigured, your test environments. Your dependencies are unclear to you, so you're getting surprised by shared services that aren't available to you, or releases that you're depending on that aren't done when you need them to be done. A number of other things you can read, but that lack of visibility causes all the same kind of problems. So you're pulling your hair out. You're frustrated because the implementation is taking too long, and the sponsors are getting impatient because they want to see the value that they paid for. That's where you are. What if there was a better way? What if we could pick a solution and solve it quickly, a matter of weeks, a couple, 2-4 weeks, solve it. You become a hero. You start to not be pulling your hair out. You're operating more sanely. You can now go to the meetings where you're trying to, align the organization and get buy-in on a larger value stream management approach, and you can show the value that you're already getting from your initial steps into that journey. Implement that solution and then expand it from there. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about 3 practical ways that you can get started with VSM. We're going to go through 3 of them. And this is where Rich is going to start to really shine, and the real fun of this webinar is going to kick in. Because there are things that we see that are real problems that a simple solution can have big impact on your organization. Deployment plans, risky, long cutover weekends could be a thing of the past. If that's something that you're dealing with, if that's a pain point that you have, you can jump in, solve it, show value, and move on. Similarly with test environments, pre-production environments, we use them all the time, from the very first time code is checked in all the way through to production. What if those were more easily managed configurations, were more predictably maintained, and availability was never a problem? Think of the wait states you would avoid. And again, quick hit, quick value, move on. When you start to do that, how about we connect a few tools? Start to get the tools aware of each other and participating in a value stream in a more corroborative way. So we can start to connect tools, and Jenkins and Jira jobs can be synced. We can start to sync between a Jira front end and a ServiceNow back end and see the value there. We're going to show that value, and I'm excited to turn it over to Rich so he can start to go through and look at some of the value. If we look here at the first one, Rich, is deployments. I think this is just feels like such brain dead simple kind of low hanging fruit. If you can deploy an application with the visibility into the schedule and know what your risks are and understand how it works, seems like this would be a big win, right, Rich?
Yeah, absolutely. And these deployments that we're helping our customers with are very large teams spread across the globe, hundreds of steps, some automated, some manual, and they have to be executed in a very specific path. And then ultimately, so you have a low risk deployment to production, and then you want to improve. You want to try to extract that time out of it. So we're going to do a demo here of deployment management. So I'm going to flip over to my screen here. And I like to think about, Plutora, value stream management platforms manage ideas from ideation all the way through production. And that's the value stream. We're just going to tackle that last piece in this little demonstration. And I'm showcasing here our deployment plans where basically a run book of managing that last step of the value stream of those manual and automated activities. So I'm taking a look here at my library of deployment plans. It's quite easy, like as Bob was sharing, to get started here. As an example, I can, to create a plan, I can simply select a plan and duplicate it. So take the plan from last month or something. If I wanted to work on the July deployment plan for the payments team, I simply grab it and I reset the date to the 20th of July. Duplicate all the activities, and that's my starting point. So fundamentally, we're going to help you author deployment plans. And then here is that draft deployment plan with the activities. Another easy way to do this as well is I can, usually people are going to start from a spreadsheet. So I have this June deployment plan. If I simply open this up, there's no activities in here. Well, quite straightforward. I'm just going to do a bulk import. A nice little wizard here. I'm going to grab a file off my computer. So usually people are managing their run books already in Microsoft Excel, which are kind of good for authoring, but very challenging for monitoring and improving. So I've selected the spreadsheet, and I'm just going to hit the little next button down here in the lower right. Does a nice little field mapping. In fact, we actually have a way to auto map these different fields. And I did my auto map. Then I'm going to hit next. It's going to do some verification. Got a nice view of any errors. I know that these are not concerning. Go ahead and import this. And, again, another way to start your then here, start the authoring of your plan. And so as I take a look at this plan, you'll notice a few things. We can group these activities in different areas. They can be activities as exciting as open the bridge. Somebody's got to do it. They'll be assigned to a person or a group with a planned start and end time. And you'll notice they can be automated or not. And if I take a look at an automated example, hey, I need to deploy the website using Jenkins. We can talk to any type of deployment technology, select the job here. And then when this activity comes up, there might be some manual things, then these automated ones can hit until the next ones are the next manual activity hits. So that's kind of, again, the run book. Now we're going to also help you manage your dependencies between the items. So see if I take a look at this one here. There's a nice timeline view. I'll zoom in a little bit here. You'll notice that we're managing the dependencies. So this guy can't start until this one finishes. So it's the classic, project management, dependency management of, finish to start, start to finish, and I think there's a fourth one. And so making sure the order of activities are carefully orchestrated. When you're drafting your plans, you'll reach a point where you want to approve that plan. A workflow will help confirm that deployment plan is ready to be moved from draft and be approved. Plan generally gets locked at that point until you're then ready to move into execution mode. Now, when you're in execution mode, here's where it's a huge uplift from just using a spreadsheet or something, is how do you coordinate all those people and check the status? And so we have a whole email notification engine. I take a look at our notification wizard, email template wizard. So all of the entities in Plutora basically have triggers that can then launch things. So I have, hey, if a deployment activity has a status change, that a activity status has been changed, I want to send an email. Very flexible way, and it supports rich text here. So I've created this email template. You see the variables that are come flowing through. And I can also, which you'll see in the actual example in a second, that I can update this activity through the notification. Do a little preview and a flexible way of who's going to be, this is going to be sent to. Before the demonstration, I actually did make a activity change. And so I can show you exactly what this example shows that, hey, for this deployment plan, run the smoke test went from not started to in progress. And if I received this, I could simply click mark as complete when ready. So I don't even have to go into Plutora. A lot of people might be managing this from a Slack channel or Teams channel or email. So real important to help, that helps with the handoffs. Well, what about the folks who are worried about the broader view of what's going on? We have a command center. This command center is going to give real-time visibility into these plans. Often we'll even see plans where there was multiple teams working simultaneously. In my little example here, I've got a master plan here with 6 different checkpoints. These are all configurable, but hour 1, have the teams check in, keeping track of any issues that are escalated upwards, keeping track of all of the activities, how many are overdue or not. And another view that's quite popular is to be able to see all the activities in real time. So let me pick a good one here. So this is looking across all these plans. And so if you were the enterprise release manager managing this complex release, very easy to see all the activities. You can see which ones are completed late or on time, things that haven't been finished yet across all of the teams simultaneously. So the goal is to successfully get these deployment plans executed. Like I said, really easy to author, then help you execute them. And then it's well, now that we've executed and hopefully it was successful, how did it go? Plutora is collecting all this data in a common data model. And you can now see, for instance, hey, I had this plan of how much all these activities were going to take and what was the actual duration. And you can even compare, let's say you release every 2 weeks, the same kind of application, you can compare and target improvements to extract time and toil out of your deployments. So if I think I can go back to my slides here, Bob.
That is a great, I mean, you took us on a journey there that I think that the thing that's so cool about it is the genesis of it was basically the import of an existing plan. I mean, people have plans. I mean, they're deploying, right? I mean, it's happening, and they've got these documents, this Excel. All I do is import in there, and I now have available to me all of the capabilities you just described. And I would think that if I'm in the middle of long deployment, and we've had customers, right, Rich, where they've spent weekends, 3-4 days over a long weekend doing a deployment of a large, complicated deploy. This would just be a game changer for that whole process, right?
Yeah, and another example is when you have a large release, it might not just be the weekend. It could be a week long. Monday night you upgrade the database. Tuesday you do this. Wednesday you do that. And it's spread across a long period of time. And all those things have to happen. That's another use case. That's really cool.
And the intermixing of manual and automated tasks, I think, is great because I was talking to a customer the other day that they had just done a deployment and it failed because somebody had put a simple manual task in the middle of it and it forgot to get done. It didn't get finished. Nice. And it's like it's the afterthought manual thing, and it just didn't happen. So it's such a human thing to do, and a process like this really helps. Well, cool. So that's a great idea. That's awesome. And by the way, I think that you do that implementation. It would be a couple weeks, maybe 4 at the most, to get that thing loaded up. Maybe not even that long, Rich.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
you're talking hours. You can get that
I mean,
very quickly.
You could be a hero in the course of a week, with solving a problem like that. So that's kind of what we're talking about. And you've put your first foot in the water getting towards VSM, and you don't even have to know that. Another one is test environments. And when I came to Plutora 5 years ago, I had no concept of how big of an issue this was. And I talked to some of the analysts along the way, and the name of the game was always about automated testing. Hey, we need to do automated testing, and that was, of course, automation is a banner headline off of DevOps anyway. So automated testing is very cool and sexy. And the analyst said, well, the first question he always asks is, do you have a stable test environment? And or do you have a test environment process? And he said, it's remarkable how many people go, no, I really don't. Well, that's where you need to start. Because if you don't have a stable test environment, you can't get consistent testing, and that is the death. Inconsistencies in testing is probably at the core of the problems that you might have. So Rich, walk us through a little bit about what this is in the context of our topic here of stepping into value stream management. Yeah,
perfect. Because test environments are, again, a piece of the value stream. It's kind of right. It's the meat in the middle. And you have a lot of scoping and development that happens. Then you have to pass through test environments, and then you get to that deploy step. And the test environments can be a huge constraint in the value stream. Typically, I see them managed by one team. So when it comes to how can you be fast and get value, test environment management is an excellent place to start, because typically it's a team. They usually have budget because they're buying environments, they're using tools, and there's real problems to solve there. And people are living in spreadsheets, SharePoint sites, emails, and don't have a handle on their environments. And it leads to this team inefficiency. If it's time to start integrated testing and the environment's not there, you have people sitting on their hands waiting. And it's not one person. This could be, the entire factory kind of slows down as nobody can kind of move forward because you can't get going on your testing. So is the environment ready? And how many environments do I have? And are they configured properly? Quite happy to have helped a very large customer last month avoid a production defect because they had one of their microservices had not been upgraded, and they didn't detect it except with Plutora. And so that if really can help with understanding that. And then, once you kind of understand your inventory and how it's configured, then who's using them? So that's kind of what I wanted to get into. Bob, maybe I'll click over to a demonstration.
Perfect.
All right. So
love the demos.
Yeah, by the way, you see here Plutora again. So kind of the meat in the middle, test environment management, and helping you get through there quickly. In this case, this is an outcome. This is what you can achieve, and you can achieve this pretty quickly. And I'll show you how we can do that. This is a path to production for a pretty complicated landscape, where you go from system integration testing to user acceptance testing, stage it, and then get out to production. And what we're able to showcase is, like I was saying, is what is your inventory of environments? How many do you have? Are they configured properly, and who's using them? So that's what we're going to get after. And so each one of these columns, I'm sure you can tell, is how this thing is configured. So I have application instances. I got an address verification service in SIT, that's version 1.1. Good news is no drift. See that all the way across the way from SIT to prod is the same. Whereas this application API Connect is at version 76 of the SIT, out in prod it's version 74. And it's version 75 here in the middle. So that can be good or bad. Hopefully there's a defect fix or a feature coming down the pipe. But if I had it to test, on UAT, I better make sure before I start my testing to get the latest code. Otherwise, if you test on an inappropriately configured environment, best case you waste time. That 2 days of full regression automated suite that just ran now has to be redone. You just wasted 2 days of the whole factory. Worst case, you don't catch it and you release a defect to production. So real important to be able to get this view, as well as a view like this, which is how is that claims SIT environment interconnected. At my last company, this was in the heads of a few architects. And in a healthy DevOps culture, it's all about visibility, transparency to enable people to work independently. So how are your environments interconnected? So if something breaks, what was it talking to that's no longer working? So how do we pull this off? Ironically, kind of similar to deployment plans. We have a very nice tool. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but it is a way to, again, where I find most people keeping their test environment configuration is in spreadsheets. So there's data out there. It's just maybe not fully shared, maybe not totally accurate, and maybe not in real time. So that's the uplift we want to do. And so with this tool we have different little tabs down here where you just enter your data. So here's my applications or my systems under management. And then here's my integrated environments. We call them groups. Then here's my application instances. And to a point where we can actually capture the key technical specs that I was just kind of showcasing. Those are the application versions and even how they're interconnected. And then you basically run this tool, and then these guys are going to light up like this, where you see my integrated environments, the application instances, and their individual configuration. So that's how we get that data going. Then, now that we have a handle on our inventory and its configuration, then we can go after who's using them. So these are what we call test environment booking requests. Couple different ways we can do this. I'm going to showcase how we can open one of these booking requests. So I need to do a claims emergency, some emergency testing for an April patch release. So what's handy here is, best practice recommendation. The typical thing I see is there's a centralized test environment management team providing test environments as a service to all the testers and developers out there. And they need information from the request. And so this is a self-service tool to formulate a good request. So configurable instructions to guide the folks, give it a title, give it a different type. And we have workflows that vary by the type of booking request. Okay, so that workflow can be should be appropriate for that need. So if it's a standard booking or emergency booking, it can flow different ways. Give it a start and end time, assign it to somebody. We can pick up additional information. Hey, I need some, Amazon stuff or some Azure stuff. Key thing is I actually picked a release, got that claims emergency release. And then I indicate and I request, hey, I need API Connect and Claims Core services, but I'm also worried that I have regression dependencies on these. These can be automatically pulled over because as I capture systems, we capture these dependencies. So now I know what the request is. I know what systems or applications I need. So now I can present to the requester all of the matching environments. Okay. And if you go say, hey, I just need it for the staging phase, it will say all the matching environments and if anyone else is using them at the time. And then I can simply drag and drop from left to right. In fact, let me do a quick one here. And I can grab it at the higher level too. So if I wanted, let's drag over SIT during dev. Actually, I already booked that one. And then let's see, I think I got staging here. And I've booked that one too. Let's try prod here. Just give you an example of how it looks like. Here we go. So two little icons here. One is that the availability would either be green, saying nobody else is using it for my requested period. And as well, it would turn red, showing a conflict. And then this pending indication is part of the workflow for approval. And we can request some other things. Hey, do I need to have exclusive use of this environment? Am I going to do pen testing or performance testing? One of our customers was doing performance testing at the same time the business was doing UAT, and that impacted them. So we formulated these requests. So you get the holy grail. You get a real-time environment schedule. Down the left, all of my integrated environments, in this case, a schedule. You're going to see the different stuff coming on in here. Here's my claims SIT environments. And I was kind of trying to showcase here that here's this request. In green was the original approval. And here's I've got a request for a use of the same environment at the same time, flagging it as a red. And, that could be okay. Maybe they could test together. So I'm going to approve it. Or I need to find an alternative environment or alternative time. Kind of like with the deployment plans, we're collecting all this data. So now you can work on improvements. I always like to say, do you have too many environments or not enough? We can prove it now. And so here's a nice environment utilization report. If environments are overused, you could increase capacity to increase speed. If environments are underused, you can spin them down to save money or reallocate those resources. And another popular one is environment drift, a deeper dive showing all those technical specs and where there is variation. So in this case, hey, I've got an operating system patch in productions at version 3, but I haven't backported it to the other environments, just as an example. And so we can do deltas on all your technical specs. So we're 2/3 of the way through the demo. I'm going to pop back to the slides, and Bob, we're going to chat about the next piece.
Well, before we leave that, I just wanted to comment. I think this is remarkably powerful. And when I talk to the customers that we have that have taken advantage of this, we're talking about changes where it took a month, 30 days to get an environment provision in one case to a matter of hours. With having this kind of insight. I mean, the impact is massive. And one of the things we found in people that are doing value stream mapping is that one of the big, bugaboos about, schedule problems is waiting, and I'm waiting for stuff. And one of the biggest sources of wait states is waiting for environments in one way, shape, or form to be configured, to be available, and what have you. So it's super huge. It's so big, in fact, that we actually recently came out with a quick start bundle for the test environment management, which I would encourage you to take a quick look at. It's low cost, certainly relative to a value stream management platform at under $25,000, and it's a capability that can be uploaded, and you can be taking advantage of it and being a hero managing your test environments in 4 weeks or less. Again, the implementation is straightforward. So for those of you that struggle with that, you could be solving some very big problems with some of your practitioners while you continue the effort to get buy-in across the enterprise for the larger implementation, and along the way show real value that will help your argument in getting the enterprise moving towards a full VSMP style in implementation. Okay, so the last piece is around releases, and it has to do with getting visibility into releases so that you can start to see the integrations between different products. I see a little typo, I apologize for. It should be data-driven orchestration there, but that's what we're looking for, is to be able to use the data and the release capabilities to actually drive it. I think that if we could do that, we would get some quick wins along the release capabilities as well, Rich. Isn't that right?
Yeah, absolutely. These tools, value stream management platforms don't replace the existing tool set. They're highly functional, targeted at a specific need, but we need that data. And that gives us the visibility. And so how do you get that data? And that's fundamentally what a platform like Plutora does. And now you've got the metrics and insights, and you can eliminate those wait states and then target those continuous improvements. So got a nice demo here coming as a third leg of this stool. Maybe I will switch over to my screen, Bob.
Okay. Yeah, this is a great one. I love this one, and really makes it come to life.
Yeah. So tell you what, I'm going to hit. There's a lot of moving parts here. So in the interest of time, I'm going to just play this for us all. On ideas, from the idea all the way to production around this continuous circle. I've selected some of the more common DevOps tools. And so we're going to start at the beginning where there's an idea captured as a fixed version in Jira. We'll bring that into Plutora. We'll bring the scope that the teams are working on. We'll bring across those epics, stories, and defects. Then we'll show how we can interact with the continuous integration phase, where we can capture whatever builds are happening out of Jenkins into Plutora. We can also capture continuous testing test results like data out of SonarQube. Then we can integrate to the CD tools and orchestrate the deployment of code into infrastructure, to the test environments and even production environments. And we can also open the ITSM ticket, the change record for the production deployment. We can also do things like capture the application list out of the ITSM tool, and also important to capture any production incidents. And so then we have a complete life cycle of how that idea gets all the way to production. So to start off, I'm going to go over to my Jira instance. And by the way, we're tool agnostic. This could be ADO, this could be version 1, Rally, it doesn't really matter. But in my example, I'm using my Jira instance here, and I have a project called Payments, and I have different releases here, or fixed versions, and 2103 major up to 2105 major release. So you got major, minor, emergency releases here. And so Plutora's integration is going to detect new releases out of Jira automatically. So I've got my pay 2105 minor release. And let's say that's going to go out on the 26th. Hit save. And now that fixed version is created. There's my 2105 minor. I can now create the issues in here. Issues are usually of type story or bug or epic. We're going to create a new user story called update website with hello universe. I can define some pieces here like delivery risk. It's a low risk. I can assign it to a portfolio. I'll go master. It's a high priority. I want to assign it to a fixed version. So that was my 2105 minor release fixed version. I can put a story estimate in here, story point estimate in here. And I want to check off what applications or components in here are changing. I'm changing the payment website. And I think that's all I need. I'm going to create this. So I come over to Plutora under Release Manager, and I've selected my templates. Notice I have a major, minor, and emergency release template. We're going to leverage these. This is my value stream, defining how I deliver software for this type of team. And so now as I come to the Release Manager, I click on Releases, and I do a search on all the payment releases. you will see now I have in Plutora automatically the 2105 minor release. It's picked up the implementation date. It's got all my release governance and compliance. It's also picked up the applications or systems, we call it, the payment website. And we've synchronized the user stories with Jira. And it's not a one-time import, but it will pick up updates as they are made in Jira. Now, as this project maybe gets approved, we can then automatically open the change record in the ITSM tool. In my case here, I'm using my ServiceNow instance. I'm taking a look at all the change requests. I've filtered by pay. I'm going to refresh this, and you now see I have a change record in ServiceNow automatically for the payment release 2105 minor release. And so what we've done is we've captured the fixed version, captured the scope, and automatically opened the ServiceNow ticket. So now we're going to take a look at some of the bottom part of this. Next, I'm going to come into GitHub, and I've got 3 repos. I have my payment website repository, and this just consists of a couple sample files. And I have multiple websites up and running. I have a website called payment-dev.plutora.org that you can go visit right now, and it is saying hello world. I have a SIT environment, a UAT, a stage, and prod. Of course, it's all configurable, but these are my different websites. This is my path to production for this application. So I'm going to go ahead and make my modifications. I'm going to edit this file, and I'm going to change my one line of code hello world to hello universe. And I'm going to want to do a pull request. So I'm going to propose my changes, and then I want to name my pull request, and I'm going to use the Jira key in the title of the pull request. So it's pay 127. And this is how we're going to do a backlink to the user story to the pull request. I'm going to leave a comment here and create my pull request. You'll go through your normal processes here, but generally you're going to want to merge this pull request back in. And I think I need to leave a comment as well. And now I can merge the pull request. Confirm the merge. And it's merged and closed. If I go back to my code, I can take a look at my index.html. See, it says hello universe. So in a modern CI/CD pipeline, you'll have a CI tool to build and deploy. So I'm over here to my Jenkins instance. Again, it could be any CI tool. I'm just using Jenkins here. And I actually have 4 jobs. I have one job that does the build, one that does the deployment, one that writes the build to Plutora, and this master one does all 3. So I'm on my Jenkins job. I'm going to hit build now. Notice I have a build of 148 was my last build. It's now working on building a new version, 149. This job is going to do the build, save it in the repo, and deploy to dev directly and write to Plutora. If I go take a look at Plutora, you'll see that I'm on my environments build section. You see I have build 148. In a moment, when the Jenkins job finishes, you'll see that come across. So this build has now finished. If I take a look at my payment website, drum roll please, I refresh, and now it says hello universe. So not only did we do the build, we deployed to dev. You'll notice that SIT, though, is still saying hello world. If I go into Plutora and refresh my build screen, you'll see I picked up a new build 149. Drill into it. You'll see I had that was that execution. I've picked up the log from Jenkins, and I've deployed it to dev. Often customers will want to orchestrate and approve, send through a workflow, the changes before they get deployed to the integrated environments. So Plutora can definitely help there. So I'm going to deploy now to the other environments through a test environment change request. So I actually have one here already, deploy new build to SIT. I think we'll just focus on SIT for this demonstration. Generally, you open a change request with some title, some different type. When you want to have it happen, it's going to go through some workflow for approval, and then we're going to want to orchestrate the deployment of that code. I have my path to production here of SIT, UAT, stage, and prod, and I want to deploy build 149 to SIT. So So you notice that's available here, and I can select the job. I have two different jobs. I want to just use the deployment job since the build's already happened. We'll pass parameters of the environment and the version to Jenkins so it deploys to the proper environment. And once this change request is approved, then you can run this automated job. And now it is moving code from the repo onto that website in SIT. We'll get some feedback here that I was successful. I can take a look at that log, for instance. Take a view of that log. That's right out of Jenkins. And if I go back to the SIT environment, I got a website there, payment-sit.platora.org. And if I hit refresh, it now says hello universe. So coming back to the diagram here, we checked out our code, we did the pull request, committed it. Jenkins wrote that to dev, wrote it to the build information to Platora, picked up the log, stored that in Platora, and then we orchestrated the deployment to the under environment. What that then gives us is great insight into the integrated tool chain. For instance, if I was a product owner, I could take a look at an epic, understand what stories are related, what release they're coming out with, and the status of those stories. If I was a release manager, I would take a look at my release. What are my user stories? What applications are impacted? And do I have fresh builds to represent new code for each of those stories? And if I was on the test team, I want to know for my application, what are all the builds? What are all the releases and changes that are supporting that build? And so I can understand the content of every build and understand those build versions and where they are deployed. And so that's how Platora integrates a tool chain and then provides excellent insights and visibility in. Great. Hopefully that came through nicely.
It was great, Rich.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of maybe a little more aspirational than our first two examples. But you can, even when you approach this, there's definitely, very high value getting that integration to the, where you're capturing your releases and stories. Just and we can do that very quickly. And then probably opening the ticket in your ITSM tool.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just almost approach it like you approach software development in an agile fashion, and start your journey.
It's really powerful to see the visibility that's attained by having that connected tool chain. And it's as simple as not having to retype stuff in and the problems that can come in from that, to as complicated as actually managing a complex orchestration. The value added to the organization feels to me to be extreme. And by the time you get here, if you've followed this, let's do deployments, let's do test environments, let's get here, you're going to wake up and voila, you're sitting there with a value stream management platform, and with just a few little doodads, you've got this whole unified value cycle implemented, and you've shown value every step of the way. I think we can go to the wrap up. One thing that I do want to remind everybody is that the goal is ultimately to get people the value stream management capabilities across the enterprise. The goal, according to Gartner, is to have that level of visibility to achieve high performing teams, and something like 70% of the people are going to be doing that. Getting value along the way really helps, make progress quickly and achieve your longer term goals as well. There is a resource that I think is really useful for this, and that is this ebook. I encourage you to download it. It gives you a full view of what value stream management is. It's kind of everything you want to know. The capabilities we've described in this webinar and the demos that Rich talked about are embedded in that book. You can see how they can come to life in the context of an overall value stream management solution. So with that, I think I can turn it over to Jared, and we can see who wins those Amazon gift cards.
All right. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Bob and Richard, for taking the time to share all of your expertise with us in today's discussion. A quick reminder that today's session was recorded. Following this panel, you'll see an email link to the recording for the on-demand. You'll also find the recording on the devops.com website. Just visit devops.com/webinars. Look in the on-demand section, and it'll be waiting for you. For today's $25 gift card winners, our drawing goes out to Rodell M, Wendy Q, JT, Beyonce P, and that's everybody. Congratulations to all of you. Please keep an eye out in your inbox so you can claim your gift card. If you don't receive the email, make sure to check your spam folder. Bob, Richard, again, thank you so much for today's webinar. Do you guys have any final remarks, or
I'd like to just be sure and thank everyone for attending. I hope you found it useful. I hope you can see where you might get some quick wins on value stream management. And on behalf of Plutora and Rich, I wish you a great day, great evening, wherever you happen to be.
All right. And again, I'd like to thank Plutora for sponsoring today's webinar. I'd also like to thank each of you for attending today's program in its entirety. Please take a moment to fill out our post-webinar survey. It's going to pop up on your screen shortly as soon as we conclude. And we look forward to seeing you in our future upcoming Techstrong webinars. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.